Hello student, now we are going to discuss about geography paper first, that is GG 101, physical geography, lithosphere. Now we have to discuss about forces affecting the earth's crust. This unit includes endogenetic and exogenetic forces, diastrophic forces, folds, faults, and sudden forces. Endogenetic forces. The study of forces affecting the crust of the earth is of significance because the forces and resultant movements are involved in the creation, destruction, recreation, and maintenance of geomaterials and numerous types of relief features of varying magnitudes. These forces very often affect and change the Earth's surface, as change is the law of nature. The geological changes are generally of two types. Uh, for the example, long period changes and short period changes. Long period changes occur so slow and their effects are visible only after long period of time. That is formation of plains, plateaus, etc. While other internal forces act suddenly, visible within short period, like earthquake and volcanoes. The forces which affect the crust of the earth are divided into two broad categories on the basis of their sources of origin: endogenetic forces and exogenetic forces. Endogenetic forces, the forces coming from within the earth, are called endogenetic forces, which cause two types of movements: horizontal movements and vertical movements. The endogenetic forces are forces and movements are divided into two major categories. These are diastrophic forces and catastrophic forces and movements. On an average, the origin of endogenetic forces is related to thermal conditions of the interior of the earth. Generally, the endogenetic forces and related horizontal and vertical movements are caused due to contraction and expansion of rocks. Exogenetic forces. The exogenetic forces are also called as denudation processes or destructional forces, or processes are oriented from the atmosphere. These forces are continuously engaged in the destruction of relief features through weathering and erosion and deposition. Exogenetic forces are therefore planation processes. Denudation includes both weathering and erosion. Weathering is a static process, includes the disintegration and decomposition of rocks in situ, whereas erosion is a dynamic process which includes both removal of material and their transportation to different destinies. The erosional processes include running water, sea waves, glaciers, wind, and periglacial processes. Then, diastrophic forces. Diastrophism refers to the disturbance and dislocation of the Earth's crust. Diastrophic forces include both vertical and horizontal movements. Diastrophic forces operate very slowly and their effects become visible after thousands and millions of years. These forces are also termed as constructive forces. These forces affect larger areas of the globe and produce meso-level relief. For the example, mountains, plains, lakes, falls, plateaus, etc. These diastrophic forces and movements are further subdivided into two groups, and these are aperogenetic movements and orogenetic movements. Aperogenetic movements are vertical movements. The word aperogenetic is derived from the Greek word aperos, meaning a continent. These forces act vertically. Then orogenetic movements are horizontal movements. The word orogenic has been derived from the Greek word oros, meaning mountain. These movements work horizontally. Then the landforms associated with horizontal movements. Horizontal movements generate tension and compression to the earth crust, which results folding and faulting to the crustal parts and cause creation of various landforms. Folds. Wave-like bands are formed in the crustal rocks due to tangential compressive force resulting from horizontal movement caused by the endogenetic force originating deep within the earth. Such bends are called folds. The upfolded rock strata are called anticlines, while the layers of rock that bend downwards are called synclines. The two sides of a fold are called limbs. The median line between the limbs along the crest of an anticline or the trough of a syncline is the axis and is called a plunging fold. The plane which bisects the angle between two limbs of the anticline or a middle limb of the syncline is called the axis of fold or axial plane. Then anticlinorium and synclinorium. When anticlines and synclines are made up of numerous and complex minor folds, they are known as anticlinorium and synclinorium. Such structure is formed due to irregular folding. Then types of folds according to the intensity of compression and shape of folds. There are uh, different types of folds. These are symmetrical folds, asymmetrical folds, monoclinal folds, isoclinal folds, recumbent fold, overthrust folds, etc. Asymmetrical folds when compression force is uniform from both sides, symmetrical folds are formed. Such folds are having symmetrical limbs. Then asymmetrical folds when the compressional forces acting on the same point are of uneven intensity. The limbs of the folds are asymmetrical. The limbs are stripped along the direction where this force is greater while the other limb is gentle or thrust fold. It is the result of a very intensive folding in which one limb of the fold is thrust upon another fold. Then faults. A fault is a fracture on the earth crust along which one side has moved with respect to another. The displacement of rock takes place due to occurrence of fracture is known as fault. Compression at one place involves tension at another place, which results fracture of the earth crust. Tensional forces are responsible for breaking of rock layers and displacement of rocks. This process is known as faulting. The place along which displacement takes place after breaking is known as fault plane. Then types of faults. Some of the important faults are described uh, like normal faults and river faults. Now, about the normal faults, due to tension in the Earth's crust, horizontal movement of rocks takes place, which results faults in the rock. This is known as normal faults. While it is the reverse fault. A reverse fault is one in which the hanging wall is on the upthrown side. Tensional or compressional forces produce a number of faults that may lie parallel to one another or may make an angle of various degree with each other. Landforms associated with faulting are horst or block mountains and rift valleys. Due to the horizontal movement in the Earth's crust, the joints or fissures develop between two parallel fissures. The Earth's crust is either raised or subsided, and hence different kinds uh, of relief features are formed. Horst or block mountain. Horst means an elevated block of land between two parallel faults. Due to displacement, the earth crust is raised between two parallel faults. The upthrown block stands like a mountain and is known as horst. Then Rift Valley. The formation of Rift Valley is a reverse to that of horst. When blocks of land between two parallel faults subsided along a fault plane, leaving a adjoining area at a higher level, the subsided part is known as graben. Sometimes the land on the other sides of fault is raised between two parallel faults. The down-thrown block is known as ramp valley. The graben is the German term, it means trough. If the trough extends over great distances and have considerable magnitude, they are called rift valley. The valleys have steep slopes and floors are wider. The Dead Sea Basin, the Great Rift Valley of Africa, in Europe, the Rift Valley of Rhine River, and Tapi and Narmada Rift Valleys, etc., are the classic examples of a Rift Valley. Then, sudden forces, earthquake. The place of origin of the earthquake is called focus. Means focus म्हणजे भूकंपाचे केंद्र. The depth of focus varies from place to place. The focus is the place from where vibrations spread out in all directions. The speed of vibration depends upon the density of rock. It is very great in and gentle as and solid granite and low in the loose and gravel. The intensity of the vibrations is reduced with increasing distance from focus. The waves generated by earthquakes are called seismic waves. These waves are recorded by an instrument called seismograph or seismometer. The lines joining the places of equal seismic intensity are called isoseismal lines. The science of earthquake is known as seismology. The place on the ground surface which is perpendicular to the focus recording the seismic waves for the first time is called epicenter. The magnitude or intensity of energy released by an earthquake is measured by the Richter scale. Causes of earthquakes: elastic rebound theory, volcanicity, anthropogenic causes, plutonic earthquakes, isostatic earthquakes, then the effects of earthquakes. Earthquakes bring about several changes. The effects of earthquakes are mainly hazardous, but few are fortunate. An earthquake becomes hazard and a disaster only when it strikes the populated area. The effects of earthquake includes deformation of ground surface, damage and destruction of a human structure. The effects of earthquakes are the disturbance in the earth crust may cause slope instability and landslides in hilly and mountainous areas. Earthquakes cause great damage to human structure such as buildings, roads, factories, dams, bridges, etc. and cause heavy loss of human property. Then the effect of earthquake is a change in groundwater level is one of the effect of earthquake. In some areas, the water level of wells increase while in some areas, water level decrease. At some places, old springs to stop and a new spring to develop. The courses of rivers are changed due to rise and subsidence of ground surface. Some rivers are flooded while some are dried up. Earthquakes strongly check the buildings. Preventive measures. Prevention of any disaster does not mean to prevent the occurrence of a natural disaster. However, prevent the adverse impact of disasters by adopting certain measures much in advance of the occurrence of a disaster. There is no effective warning system for earthquakes, which make preliminary precautions. At the same time, knowing how to behave when earthquakes occur and before, during, and after the occurrence of earthquake. Measures before earthquakes are install latches on cupboard doors, store heavy items uh, or glasswares in lower cabinet, properly secure large appliances. Then, during earthquakes, immediately seek a safe location, cover the back of head and eyes to minimize injury, turn off heating elements, stay in open areas away from buildings, trees, and other potential hazards. If driving, stop quickly and stay in vehicle. Stay calm and brace sitting if possible. After earthquakes, be prepared for aftershock. Tend injuries immediately. Check up structural damage. Turn off electricity, gas, and water. If damage is suspected, keep phone lines clear for emergency use, etc. Thank you.